The golden rays of sunrise peeped through the windows of Golden Diner, casting warm shadows across the freshly wiped tables. It was 5:30 a.m., and May was already there, tying her apron with practiced hands that had performed this same ritual thousands of times before. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air as she prepared for another day of serving the community she'd grown to love over the past 6 years. The decision to leave college hadn't been easy, but her mother's medical bills had left her with little choice. Some might have seen it as giving up on dreams, but May had discovered something unexpected in this small corner diner, a different kind of purpose. As she arranged sugar packets and filled salt shakers, her mind wandered to the familiar faces she'd soon see. There was the kind grandfather who always sat at table 4, reading his morning paper while slowly stirring his oatmeal. The young office workers who rushed in for their morning coffee fix, their ties slightly crooked and shoes clicking against the checkered floor. The retired teacher who loved to share stories about her former students while enjoying her daily cheese omelet. The morning rush started right on schedule. The bell of the door chimed as customers began streaming in, bringing with them the bustling energy of a new day. Mai moved between tables with the grace of a dancer, balancing plates of steaming pancakes and eggs, never missing a beat. "Extra crispy bacon for you," she'd say with a genuine smile, remembering each customer's preference without needing to ask. What made Mai special wasn't just her incredible memory for orders. It was how she noticed the little things. She could tell when someone was having a rough day just by the way they slumped in their booth. Those were the days she'd slip an extra piece of toast onto their plate or make sure their coffee cup never reached empty. Sometimes, all people needed was someone to see them, really see them. The diner itself wasn't fancy. The vinyl booths had seen better days, and the neon sign outside flickered occasionally, but none of that mattered. Under the warm glow of hanging lamps, strangers became regulars, and regulars became family. Mai knew the stories behind every coffee stain on the counter, every scratch on the tables. Each mark told a tale of laughter shared, tears wiped away, and countless conversations that had shaped the heart of this place. Between refilling coffee cups and taking orders, Mai watched a touching scene unfold. A young mom struggled to calm her fussy toddler while trying to eat her breakfast. Without hesitation, Mai grabbed a paper and some crayons she kept behind the counter. Soon, the little one was happily scribbling away, and the grateful mother could finally enjoy her meal in peace. It was moments like these that reminded Mai why she loved her job so much. The morning rush eventually settled into a gentle hum of clinking plates and quiet conversations. Mai wiped her brow with the back of her hand, taking a moment to catch her breath. Through the window, she could see the city coming to life. People hurrying to work, school buses rolling by, the world spinning forward. But here in the diner, time moved at its own pace, measured in cups of coffee and friendly hellos. Looking around at the familiar faces, Mai felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the kitchen heat. She might not have that college degree hanging on her wall, but she had something else. A community that counted on her, trusted her, and made every early morning worth it. This wasn't just a job. It was where she belonged. It started as an ordinary Sunday at the Golden Diner, with the usual buzz of weekend crowds filling every booth and counter seat. Mai had just finished delivering a stack of blueberry pancakes when her manager pulled her aside, worry lines creasing his forehead. Their main cook hadn't shown up, and his phone was going straight to voicemail. On the busiest day of the week, they were suddenly without someone to run the kitchen. The timing couldn't have been worse. The diner was packed with families fresh from church services, regulars expecting their usual Sunday specials, and new faces drawn in by the smell of fresh coffee and bacon. Through the kitchen window, Mai could see tickets piling up, and she heard the growing murmur of hungry customers wondering about their delayed orders. Something stirred in Mai's memory. Countless hours spent in her childhood kitchen, watching her mother prepare family meals. The way her mom's hands moved confidently between pots and pans, adding pinches of this and dashes of that, creating magic from simple ingredients. Those memories had been tucked away, but they hadn't faded. "I can cook," May heard herself say, surprising even herself. Her manager looked uncertain, but what choice did they have? May untied her serving apron and grabbed a clean kitchen one. As she stepped behind the grill, the heat hit her face, and for a moment, doubt crept in. But there wasn't time for second thoughts. She started with what she knew best, the classics. Eggs cracked with one hand, just like her mother had taught her. The sizzle of hash browns hitting the hot grill brought back memories of Sunday mornings at home. Each movement became more confident as muscle memory from years of watching and helping in her family kitchen took over. The first few orders were nerve-wracking. May's hands trembled slightly as she plated an omelet, wondering if it would meet the diner's standards. But when she peeped through the kitchen window and saw a regular customer take their first bite and break into a satisfied smile, something shifted. She could do this. Word spread quickly through the diner about what was happening. Instead of complaints about the wait, customers began sharing stories about their own experiences with unexpected challenges. An elderly woman told her granddaughter about her first day running her family's store alone. A businessman remembered having to give an important presentation when his boss fell sick. The other staff rallied around May. Servers jumped between taking orders and helping prep ingredients. The dishwasher stepped up to handle basic prep work. Even some regular customers offered encouragement, sending compliments to the kitchen that made May's cheeks flush with pride. As the hours passed, May found her rhythm. She moved between the grill and prep station with growing confidence, calling out orders and timing each dish. The kitchen that had initially felt overwhelming became her dance floor, and she was leading the symphony of sizzling pans and clinking plates. What could have been a disaster turned into something unexpected. A reminder that sometimes life's biggest moments come disguised as challenges. Customers who came in expecting an ordinary Sunday breakfast witnessed something special. A young woman discovering strengths she didn't know she had. By the time the lunch rush ended, May's feet ached and her clothes were spattered with grease, but her heart was full. She had managed to keep the diner running, not just serving food, but serving it with care and pride. The day's challenge had transformed into a victory, not just for her, but for the whole diner community who had supported her through it. As she finally took a moment to rest, leaning against the counter and sipping water, May realized something important. Sometimes the most meaningful achievements aren't the ones we plan for, but the ones that find us when we're brave enough to step up. That Sunday had changed something in the diner, and in Mai herself, proving that with determination and support, ordinary people could do extraordinary things. News about May's cooking talents spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. What started as whispered recommendations between friends turned into a steady stream of new faces at the Golden Diner, each hoping to experience the magic they'd heard about. But what kept people coming back wasn't just the food. It was the way May made everyone feel like they belonged. Every morning, she greeted the sunrise with a fresh pot of coffee and an even fresher smile. The elderly gentleman who came in with his arthritis-twisted hands found that his pancakes were always pre-cut into perfect bite-sized pieces before they reached his table. He never had to ask. May just noticed and quietly made his breakfast easier to enjoy. The young mom who rushed in most mornings with 3 kids in tow always found their usual corner booth ready, complete with extra napkins and crayons. Mai would slip the youngest a banana while the mom was settling the older 2, knowing it would keep the little one content until breakfast arrived. "You're an angel," the mom would say, but to Mai, it was just part of caring. There was the quiet college student who'd sit for hours with a single cup of coffee, surrounded by textbooks. Mai noticed her counting change one day and started accidentally bringing her extra toast or leftover muffins. "They'll just go to waste otherwise," she'd say with a wink, remembering her own tough days as a student. The local shelter down the street became another regular stop in May's routine. At the end of each day, she carefully packed up the leftover pastries and bread, making sure everything was still fresh and presentable. The shelter's coordinator would greet her with a warm hug, knowing that May's contributions meant their residents would have something sweet with their morning coffee. One particularly memorable morning, an elderly couple celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary at the diner. May overheard them reminiscing about their first date over coffee and pie. During her break, she rushed to the flower shop next door and bought a small bouquet with her own money. When she served their usual order, she included the flowers and a slice of pie with a candle. The wife teared up, and the husband's voice cracked as he thanked her. "This place," he said, "feels more like home than anywhere else." The diner's walls began filling with photographs, snapshots of celebrations, milestones, and everyday moments that Mai had become part of. There was the picture of the high school basketball team that came in after winning their first championship in 20 years. Mai had stayed late that night, serving hot chocolate and listening to them relive every exciting moment of the game. Even on the busiest days, May remembered the little details that made people feel special. She knew which customers needed their coffee right away and which ones preferred to settle in first. She remembered that the newspaper delivery man liked his sandwich with extra pickles, and the night shift nurse needed her coffee extra strong. The diner became more than just a place to eat. It transformed into a community hub where people shared their stories, celebrated victories, and found comfort on tough days. May kept a mental notebook of everyone's lives. Who was expecting a baby, who was going through a rough patch, whose kid just got into college. She celebrated their joys and offered quiet support during their struggles. One customer, a retired teacher, watched May work her magic day after day. "You know," she said one morning, "some people go their whole lives without finding their true calling. But you found yours right here. You're not just serving food, you're serving hope, kindness, and community. That's a rare gift." Mai never saw herself as doing anything extraordinary. To her, it was simple. Everyone who walked through those doors was part of her extended family. Whether they came in for a full meal or just a cup of coffee, they all deserved to feel welcomed, valued, and cared for. In return, they filled her days with purpose, laughter, and countless reminders that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could make the biggest difference in someone's day. Nobody saw the storm coming, at least not like this. What started as gentle snowflakes turned into a fierce blizzard that brought the city to a standstill. Streets disappeared under blankets of white, and the wind howled through empty neighborhoods as power lines started falling. May was just finishing her morning shift at the Golden Diner when the first emergency alerts buzzed on everyone's phones. The owner was about to close up, worried about getting home safely, when May looked out at the growing storm and had a different idea. "We can't close," she said softly but firmly. "Look outside. People are going to need somewhere warm to go." The owner hesitated, but years of trusting May's judgment won out. They decided to keep the diner open, but nobody expected what would happen next. As the storm intensified, people began appearing at the door like snowbound ghosts. A bus driver and his passengers stranded when their vehicle couldn't go any further. An elderly couple whose home had lost power. A young family caught in the storm while trying to reach relatives. Each came with snow in their hair and worry in their eyes. Mai transformed the diner into a makeshift shelter. She pushed tables together to make space, dug out extra chairs from storage, and kept the coffee flowing. The kitchen became her command center as she worked to make sure everyone had something warm to eat. The hours blurred together. Mai hadn't planned to stay, but leaving wasn't even a question anymore. She worked through her exhaustion, moving between tasks with determined focus. When the power flickered, she found flashlights and candles in the storage room. When blankets were needed, she remembered the stack of clean tablecloths in the back. A small boy, no more than 6, watched wide-eyed as Mai moved through the diner. "Are you magic?" he whispered when she brought him hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. His mother, worried and tired, smiled for the first time in hours. "No, sweetie," she said, "she's just an angel." The diner became more than just a shelter. It became a community. A retired nurse among the stranded helped care for an elderly man who was feeling unwell. A teenager taught card games to younger children to keep them entertained. Someone started singing, and soon holiday songs filled the air, making the howling wind outside seem less frightening. Mai kept track of everyone's needs without writing anything down. She remembered who needed medicine when, who had dietary restrictions, who was diabetic, and needed to eat regularly. When supplies started running low, she got creative, turning simple ingredients into filling meals that brought comfort on a cold night. As night fell and the storm raged on, May worked to turn the diner into a place where people could sleep. Booths became beds for children, while adults dozed in chairs or on cushions made from spare aprons and tablecloths. She stayed awake, keeping watch, making sure the heat stayed on, and that anyone who woke up could find a friendly face. Using the diner's old landline, one of the few phones still working, Mai helped people contact worried family members. She kept a list of messages and phone numbers, passing along updates and reassurances. "Your daughter is safe," she would say. "Yes, they have blankets. Everyone's being taken care of." 36 hours passed like this. May caught quick naps between tasks, but never really slept. Her feet ached, her back hurt, but every time she thought about stopping, she'd see someone who needed help and find new energy. The storm had trapped them all together, but she was determined to make sure nobody felt alone or afraid. When the plows finally came through and the power crews started restoring electricity, people gradually began leaving the diner. Each person hugged May before they left, trying to find words to thank her. "You kept us safe," they'd say, or "We'll never forget this." May just smiled, gave extra hugs to the children, and made sure everyone had a warm drink for the road. After the last person left, May finally sat down in an empty booth. Looking around at the evidence of the past day and a half, coffee cups everywhere, blankets draped over chairs, children's drawings left behind, she felt something profound. In the middle of a storm that could have brought out the worst in people, she had witnessed some of the best. The diner had become exactly what she'd always wanted it to be, not just a place to eat, but a true shelter for the human spirit. It started with a simple social media post. A customer who had been sheltered at the diner during the storm shared their story online. "This waitress didn't just give us a place to stay," they wrote. "She gave us hope when we needed it most." The post spread quickly, touching hearts across the city. A local news reporter, who had heard whispers about the diner's role during the storm, stopped by one morning for coffee. She watched May work, the way she remembered every regular's order, how she helped an elderly customer with his coat, the genuine warmth in her smile. The reporter realized this wasn't just a story about one snowstorm. It was about years of quiet kindness that had shaped an entire community. The next day, more reporters arrived. They wanted to interview Mai, but she was too busy making sure her customers were taken care of. "Let me finish serving breakfast first," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. "These people are hungry." That simple response said more about her character than any planned interview could. As word spread, regular customers began sharing their own stories. The young mother spoke about how Mai had noticed her struggling to afford school supplies for her kids and quietly started a collection among the regulars. The college student told reporters about the times Mai had slipped her extra food during finals week, helping her get through long study sessions. The retired teacher shared how Mai had organized a surprise party for her 70th birthday, decorating the diner with handmade signs and making sure all her former students knew about it. "She didn't do it for attention," the teacher explained, tears in her eyes. "She did it because that's who she is. Someone who sees what others need and finds a way to provide it." The local shelter coordinator stepped forward too, describing how Mai had been bringing them leftover food for years, always taking care to package it nicely so people felt respected. "She never wanted recognition," the coordinator said. "She just wanted to make sure nobody went hungry." What touched people most weren't the big moments, but the small acts of kindness that May thought nobody had noticed. The time she spent an hour after her shift helping a lost tourist find their hotel. The way she kept a jar of dog treats by the door for customers walking their pets. How she learned basic sign language to better serve a deaf couple who came in every Wednesday. The bus driver from the storm night told reporters about watching May comfort a crying child by teaching her to make paper airplanes out of placemats. The elderly couple shared how she always walked them to their car when it was icy, no matter how busy the diner was. Each story revealed another facet of May's quiet impact on people's lives. Television crews set up their equipment in the diner, but May kept working as if they weren't there. She refilled coffee cups, cleaned tables, and chatted with regulars, all while cameras rolled. "This isn't about me," she told one reporter during a quiet moment. "It's about community. We all need somewhere to belong." The owner of the diner, watching all this unfold, remembered hiring May 6 years ago. "I thought I was just getting a waitress," he told the newspapers. "Instead, I got someone who turned this place into the heart of our neighborhood." You can't train someone to care like that. It's just who they are. Letters started arriving at the diner from people who had moved away but never forgotten May's kindness. A soldier stationed overseas wrote about how she had decorated his regular booth for his last breakfast before deployment. A woman who had battled cancer described how Mai had kept her favorite soup ready every day during treatment, even when she could barely eat. Through it all, Mai remained unchanged by the attention. She still arrived early each morning to start the coffee, still remembered every regular's order, still treated each person who walked through the door like they were the most important customer of the day. When asked about all the recognition, she simply smiled and said, "I'm just doing what my mother taught me, treating everyone like family." The media attention would eventually fade, but something more important remained. People had been reminded that heroism doesn't always wear a cape or make headlines. Sometimes it wears an apron, carries a coffee pot, and changes the world one small kindness at a time. The stack of job offers sat on May's kitchen table, each envelope representing a different path her life could take. Famous restaurants wanted her to join their staff. Catering companies offered management positions. One luxury hotel even promised to double her current salary. The opportunities she never dreamed of were suddenly at her fingertips. Every morning before her shift, May would look at these letters, running her fingers over the fancy letterheads. She thought about how the extra money could help with her mother's medical bills, how a prestigious job title might make her family proud. The practical part of her mind kept saying, "This is your chance." But then she'd walk into the diner, and everything would change. The familiar bell above the door chimed its welcome. The smell of fresh coffee and warm bread wrapped around her like a comfortable blanket. Before she could even reach the break room, she'd hear the regulars calling out their morning greetings. The young boy who had been caught in the storm with his mother now came in every Saturday with his piggy bank, proudly ordering his own breakfast. "I've been saving up," he'd tell Mai, carefully counting out his coins. She'd always make sure his hot chocolate had extra marshmallows, just like that stormy night. During her afternoon break, Mai sat in her favorite booth, the one with the slight tear in the cushion that she'd covered with a carefully placed placemat. The retired teacher joined her, sliding a cup of tea across the table. They didn't talk about the job offers. They didn't need to. Instead, they talked about the regular customers, the stories that filled these walls, the moments that made this place special. The decision weighed heavily on her mind one busy morning. As she moved between tables, she noticed how the teenage dishwasher struggled to keep up with the breakfast rush. Instead of getting frustrated, she showed him a better way to organize the dishes, the same way someone had once taught her. His grateful smile reminded her of herself when she first started. A group of business people came in for lunch, wearing expensive suits and carrying leather briefcases. They talked loudly about corporate careers and big opportunities in the city. Mai served them with her usual care, but as she watched them rush through their meals while typing on phones, She wondered if that fast-paced world was really what she wanted. That afternoon, a young woman came in alone, looking lost and tired. Mag brought her a cup of coffee and sat down for a moment when things were quiet. The woman had just moved to town and didn't know anyone. "Come back tomorrow," May told her. "You'll always have a friend here." She remembered all the lonely people who had found comfort in these booths over the years. The diner's owner noticed May looking thoughtful during the dinner rush. He'd seen the fancy letters, heard the rumors about job offers. "You know," he said, joining her at the counter, "success isn't always about climbing higher. Sometimes it's about digging deeper roots where you are." Late that night, after closing, Mai walked through the quiet diner. She touched the worn counter where countless elbows had rested, straightened the photos on the wall that told stories of celebrations and everyday moments. Each table held memories: first dates, family reunions, quiet victories, and shared sorrows. She thought about the regular customers who had become like family. The elderly man who needed his pancakes pre-cut. The busy mom who counted on this place as her morning sanctuary. The students who found encouragement here during exam weeks. The lonely souls who found connection over cups of coffee. A fancy restaurant might offer better pay, but would it offer better purpose? A corporate job might look good on paper, but would it feel good in her heart? May realized that success wasn't just about moving up. Sometimes it was about growing right where you were planted. Standing in the doorway, keys in hand, May looked back at the diner one last time before turning off the lights. The moonlight streamed through the windows, making the chrome fixtures gleam softly. In that quiet moment, she knew this wasn't just where she worked. This was where she belonged. This was where she could make the biggest difference, not by doing anything grand, but by being there, day after day, caring for her community in all the small ways that added up to something meaningful. Spring arrived with fresh possibilities at the Golden Diner. May had not only decided to stay, but had shared her vision with the owner, to transform their beloved diner into something even more meaningful. Her idea was simple yet powerful. Use the diner to help young people who needed a chance, just like she once did. The change started small, with a teenager who had been struggling in school. He would stop by the diner each morning, often looking hungry and tired. Instead of just feeding him, May offered him a job. She taught him how to work the register, showing the same patience her first manager had shown her. Soon, his grades began improving, and his smile returned. Word spread through local schools and community centers. Young people who needed direction started showing up at the diner's back door, drawn by stories of the waitress who gave second chances. May worked with the owner to create a proper training program. They called it the Golden Start, a chance for kids to learn not just job skills, but life lessons. The kitchen became a classroom of sorts. Mai taught them everything she knew: how to cook, how to serve, how to treat customers with respect. But the real lessons went deeper. She showed them how to listen when people needed to talk, how to notice when someone was having a bad day, how to make others feel valued. One girl, quiet and shy when she first arrived, blossomed under May's guidance. "Nobody ever believed in me before," she told May one day while learning to make the perfect omelette. "You showed me I could be more than my past mistakes." The girl later became the diner's first student manager, helping May train newcomers. The diner's regulars embraced these changes wholeheartedly. The retired teacher offered to help students with their homework during slow afternoon hours. The businessman who came in for lunch started teaching basic accounting skills. The community that Mai had nurtured for years now gave back, creating a network of support for each young person who walked through their doors. Even the physical space evolved. They cleared out the old storage room and turned it into a small study area. The walls filled with photos of success stories: young people graduating, starting their own businesses, going to college. Each picture told a story of transformation that started with a simple chance and a lot of heart. The local shelter coordinator, seeing the impact, started referring young people who needed stability. This isn't just about jobs, she told the community meeting. It's about giving people roots, showing them they belong somewhere. May made sure every referred youth got not just training, but also a hot meal and a patient ear. One rainy evening, a reporter who had covered the storm story months ago came back to see how things had changed. She found May in the kitchen, teaching a group of teenagers how to bake the diner's famous apple pie. The laughter and warmth in that scene told a story that went beyond words. "You could have gone anywhere," the reporter remarked, watching May guide a young baker's hands through the motions of crimping pie crust. "Why stay?" Mai looked around at her students, at the regular customers enjoying their meals, at the community that had become her family. "Because sometimes the biggest dreams come true right where you are," she answered. "I didn't need to go somewhere else to make a difference. The difference was waiting to be made right here." The Golden Diner became known not just for its food, but for its heart. People came from all over to see the place where coffee came with compassion, where young lives changed direction, where community meant more than just a word on a sign. Tour buses would sometimes stop outside, but what they found inside wasn't a tourist attraction. It was simply people taking care of people. May's mother, visiting the diner one busy afternoon, watched her daughter moving between tables, teaching new trainees, making everyone feel at home. "When you left college," she said quietly, "I worried you were giving up on your dreams. Now I see you weren't giving up at all. You were finding an even bigger dream." That's the thing about true calling. It doesn't always come with a fancy title or a big paycheck. Sometimes it comes wearing an apron, serving hope alongside hot coffee, changing lives one small kindness at a time. The Golden Diner wasn't just a restaurant anymore. It was proof that when you pour your heart into something, it grows into more than you ever imagined possible.